Welcome back. I'm Mel Poole at StokedMTB here with another installment of the College of Knowledge. These short little informative videos are full of tips and tricks to boost your cycling experience and build your stoke for more. For this video, I'm going to be discussing some of the changes we may consider making to our bike when we bring it indoors and put it on the trainer. It can be a very different scenario, even though it's the same bike, and I believe that having all of this information before we make any changes is going to be key. So let's dive in. So many folks, myself included, have had an experience where they brought their beloved bike indoors after a great season of riding outside where the bike fit great and everything, put it on the trainer, and all of a sudden it is so uncomfortable. Within 20 minutes, your butt is just screaming and you think, how can this be? And the reason for that is the bike is rigid. It's inanimate basically. And whereas when you're outside, you know, we're up, we're down, we're out of the saddle, we're moving all over the place and we're relieving the pressure on the saddle. When we're on the trainer, the bike doesn't move. Even just on the road when we're just sitting and pedaling, the bike's kind of moving around a little bit, forward, back, side to side. Here on the trainer, it doesn't move. So given that a lot of the discomfort is coming from the bike being very still, there are rocker plates and platforms that you can get that allow the bike and trainer to move a bit, and that provides a great amount of comfort. I have heard, I don't own one. You can also make great efforts when you're on the trainer to get out of the saddle as frequently as you can. Even just 10 pedal strokes at a time can help to relieve that pressure and get blood circulating again. That's a strategy that I have found works. But before we go making any changes to the bike, take a good think and think, okay, this bike fit me great outside, and we want it to fit like that when we get back outside. So take measurements before you make any changes to the bike, so that when we get back to the warm breezes blowing and we're going outside, we can return the bike back to that glorious fit of last season. Right, so what measurements am I talking about here? Don't worry, I'm going to walk you through how to measure them, but here's just a brief overview of the ones we're going to be taking a look at. Right, so let's start off with a level playing field. Get it? Level. First thing we're going to do is we're going to check to see how level the bike is. Some trainers and leveling blocks or riser blocks can really change the tilt of the bike. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure from the center of our skewer or through axle to the ground on the back and the front. That measurement. Then we want to measure our seat post height. So we're going to make sure that we know how high the saddle is from the pedals. Then we're going to take a look at the distance from the nose of the saddle to, I like to use the center of the stem bolt, the top cap bolt. And then we're also going to check the level of the saddle. This is something that people like to play around with a lot on the trainer, good or bad. So I'm going to say we're going to go through all of these and let's get these measurements before we make any changes so that we're able to change everything back. Okay, so now we're going to walk through how to take these measurements, and I strongly suggest either writing them down or storing them in your digital notes on your phone. Okay, so for this you're going to need a tape measure, a level, and either, I'm going to use a piece of 2x4, maybe you've got like a nice big hardcover coffee table book, something like that. We're going to be using that for the saddle leveling. So grab your tools and let's take some measurements. So like I mentioned, first things first, we're going to be making sure that our bike is level, and we do that by measuring from the center of our skewer or through axle to the floor. So So same again for the front, center of through axle to the ground. We're going to measure our saddle height. There's a few different ways of doing this, and this is my preferred method. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to line up our crank arm with our seat tube. Make a nice straight line there. Then we're going to measure from the top of our pedal spindle here up to right at the very top of the saddle. Okay, so measure it from here, straight on up. So the reason I like to measure to here is because different saddles can have different heights. So if you're changing saddle heights, some people prefer to measure to the saddle rails. Myself, I like to go as level as I can to the top of the saddle to accommodate for that. But keep in mind, some saddles do have more of a swoop. This does have a pretty up curved tail to it, so I am measuring right in that line. So that is where I get my saddle height. So our next measurement is going to be from our saddle nose to, I like to use the bolt of my top cap. So measuring that distance is going to give us some good information. So, great. So one thing to keep in mind if you are changing saddles is that different saddles have different nose lengths. So you might want, when you're making your notes, make sure you note the saddle and that measurement. So that's going to give you your fore and aft measurement, okay? So last but not least, we're going to be checking the level of our saddle. So to be perfectly frank, this really is something that we should be measuring before we put the bike on the trainer, and then measuring it again once we're on the trainer. Taking into account when we checked the level of the entire bike, that can change the trueness of the level of the saddle. So when we want it to be the same when it goes back outside, ultimately you should be taking that measurement before you even put it on the trainer. So whether or not you're measuring it on the trainer, off the trainer, whatever, the measuring procedure is still the same. And that's what we're gonna do right now. So you can take a hardcover book. I don't have any handy, so I'm going to use a piece of lumber that I did have handy, and I'm just gonna place it on the saddle and then check my level. So you can see how level your saddle should be. For the most part, a saddle should be quite level. So those are the measurements that we want to take from our bike before we go making changes on the trainer. So we're going to be checking to see how level the bike is on the trainer, and then we're going to measure our saddle height, our fore and aft, and then our saddle level. So that's going to be very useful information when you go to take your bike back outdoors. Hope you enjoy this video, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you again with another video soon.